Hi there, Drew Brents here, PreApp 1003 and Broker Plus, and today I want to take a few minutes and go through the manual application within the Broker Plus system. So first of all, up at the top right, you would click New PreApp, and you would go to Start New PreApp. Now, before I do this, I do want to recommend it's always better if you could send out the PreApp application to someone for them to flesh out the majority of the data points. But today we're going to do this by hand as if you're on a phone application with someone. So we're going to start this. Now it's going to drop you right into a blank canvas application. So a couple things I want to bring to your attention. It takes you right to the borrower tab. We do have notifications. Anytime you see little notifications, just hover over that and it'll tell you what it is. So this found a borrower with less than 2 years of residency, so because we haven't added any residency yet. Also, we have borrowers with less than 2 years employment. Okay, so we're going to make sure we clear all that. The other thing I want to mention to you is you notice these little information tabs here, and I do recommend hovering over those. And you could click on this. This is where you would actually pull credit, is this little shortcut right here. You would click on that, and because these are red, it's telling me if I click on it what data points I'm missing in order to pull credit. So I'm missing obviously the signature authorization for the credit, the social security number, the current address, marital status. So I can request a signature or get a verbal authorization. Okay, so if I want to get a verbal, I could say yes, update that, and now that's cleared, but I still have data points missing. So let's go ahead and go through the application. We'll clear that, and I'll show you how those we can clear those notices. But when it is satisfied, this little I is going to be gray, or it's not going to be red anymore. Okay. All right. So let's go to the first borrower. So married, now you can marry somebody to, you could tie them to an individual on the application, which will allow you to pull a joint credit report, or you can leave unmarried, okay, and pull single or individual credit reports. You could also use the unmarried parties of interest, yes, and relationship types, just like it is in the new URLA, okay, right there, and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and just go ahead and marry these two people together. And number of dependents, so we're going to say 2. Now, if you notice, age of dependents right there, we have a little information bar. You hover over that and it gives you little tips, okay? So notice it says the ages must be separated by commas. We actually had someone not too long ago that did the ages like this, and believe it or not, it threw an error in the MISMO file, okay, because it's supposed to be a numeric field. So that was it, something as simple as that. So that's why we give little tips and tricks. If you just hover over those, and you can see them. So we're going to do 9 and 11, okay. And if they're a veteran, you open this, click that, and it's going to open up all the veteran information, okay. And then FTHB stands for first time home buyer. Yes or no on that. Okay, so we're going to update this. Okay, this add a residence. Now, if you notice, I can't edit the city or state. You have to enter a zip code first, okay, for those to be opened up, all right? So let me put in the zip code and tab. Now it'll auto-populate the city and state. However, depending on what areas you're in, I know some zip codes in California have more than one city attached to it. So let's say it populated the wrong city or whatever. Now you can go in and edit those, but you have to enter a zip code first, okay? Current residence, yes or no, okay? Mailing address, yes or no. You could add a mailing address, and then years. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put in 2, okay? And then if we rent, okay. Now, if I was less than 2 years on that, it would give me a notice that I'm missing 2 years, okay? Let's go ahead and do the co-borrower. Oh, also, while we're here, aliases, right there, okay? And counseling, homeownership counseling, okay? Now, when you go to the residence for the additional borrower, now you have a drop down You can select, so you don't have to retype in all that. You do have to put in the years because obviously that could be unique. Okay, let's go to employment. So notice how we're just walking through the tabs on this. So we got employed, owner, or self-employed. So we go self-employed, you fill this out. Ownership more than 25%, yes or no. Current, employed by family member, so forth. So, that's the self-employed, employed, retired, or unemployed. Okay, and so we're going to go employed on this one. We're going to add employment. Now, if you notice right here, we give the little indicator. So again, hover over that and it shows, okay, you've got less than 2 years, so you need to go ahead and add additional employers. Okay, so we go employed. Let's go add employer. Okay. Now, for the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and we're just going to list Jane as unemployed. Okay, let's go to income. Now, income must be tied to an employer. So it's just a good rule that before you add income, always add an employer. Okay, so let's go ahead and add income. So if you notice, only I've got 2 jobs there. One is current, one is previous. When I go to my income section, we have a placeholder for the current employer. So we're going to go to the edit right there, and we're going to go ahead and select base income. Self-employed, yes or no on that. Okay, so we're going to say no on this one, and then break it down between. I'll just go ahead and use it yearly for ease of use right now. Let's say 80,000. Okay, you know what? If we went hourly, notice this: we get the the enter the amount, hours per week. Okay, and it'll do the math for you. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and go back to yearly, update income. Now, one thing I do want to point out is if you add income, another job here, okay, so remember, it needs to be tied to an employer, okay? So let's say, you just add another job, okay? Now, we are pushing an update, and it should be live. This is Saturday morning, should be live this coming Monday, where you could enter a new employer here, okay? And enter the name, and it'll create a placeholder under the employment section. So that's something that we're pushing this weekend. So it just, trying to make things a little easier for everyone. So you can add a new employer. It'll create the placeholder under the employees employment section where you can flesh out all the details of that employer. But you can add income, and again, we're pushing the code where it'll create the placeholder over here for another employment. Okay. But I tell you what, I'm going to delete this one just for now, but I wanted to point that out to you. Okay. All right, assets. Let's go to assets. So we're going to add assets. So we're going to go checking, put in your name. Now, as you enter names of different banks and things, we actually create like a Rolodex. Okay, so you're going to, have those where you could just, go ahead and, there you go, use those. Okay, now, you could add more, okay? And if you add the same bank, but it's a different account type, add asset. Okay, notice it's reading that bank and it's listing the different account types under that bank. If I went and did a whole different bank, let me go with a mutual fund here, and let's go with Chase Bank. And add asset, you're going to see a different bank there. So that's very convenient there. Okay, so moving on to liabilities. Now, liabilities are going to be mapped from your credit report when you pull credit. Now, if you notice up here, I've got this I is that it's no longer red. So I'm actually able to go to credit options and pull credit. This one's still red. Why? Because I'm missing my authorization. So I could click a verbal, or I could actually send out a text or email to get an actual signed authorization. Okay, but let's go ahead and just mark the verbal. Yes, I got a verbal authorization. Okay. Now I have the ability to pull both of those. Okay, so I would go here, I would go to credit options. By the way, you are able to right click on different things and open in new tabs the different forms. So you would go to credit options here, and I don't know if you noticed that, but again, right click, open a new tab. That way I don't lose my place. And now if you don't want to pull credit, you can actually go to estimated credit, score, and monthly debts. If you're just working up, you don't want to pull credit, but they told you, hey, my score is XYZ, here's my debts. You can go ahead and use that as just sort of as a very rough thumbnail sketch, as it preliminary talks with people. And it'll allow you to work up fee worksheets and get PMI quotes and things like that. But ideally, you do want to pull credit. And now, when you go to pull credit, you're going to have the drop down. And if it's a joint report, they're going to be on the same line. Okay. Now, I did tie them, through that marriage option. Okay. We are going to make some updates to this to allow you to pull joint reports with multiple people on here. In the meantime, if you want to pull a joint report, you can marry them and then unmarry them after you get the report. If you want, for instance, if you want a joint report with father and son, go ahead and mark. I know that's a little strange, but go ahead and mark them as married, pull the joint report, then unmarry them after that. Again, we're pushing an update to make that a little more clear, a little simpler. So we're going to go ahead and pull and new pull or reissue request. Okay. And do you want the borrower to pay for it with a credit card? You can enter in their details there. Okay. So I'm not going to pull credit though. All right. And let me close that tab. So I'm back over here. Now you could also add other liabilities. Now, once you pull credit, it's going to map over any liabilities that have a balance. Okay. Now, these other liabilities here is specific to alimony, child support, separate maintenance, job-related expenses, or other. Okay, so if you need to add other debts and things like that, matter of fact, let me take you to a different file really quick, and I'll show you. An example of the liabilities when credit is pulled. So liabilities, right here. So we got Lou Skywalker's liabilities, Mary Jade liabilities here, and then we got the other ones. Okay, so if once you pull credit, you're able to add additional liabilities. Okay, and you could, for instance, maybe there's a mortgage that's owner finance that's not on the credit report, so you can begin to list those, all that, exclude from DTI, to be paid off, paid at closing. So you could, manipulate that. And any mortgages that'll pick up, it's going to give you a notice to tie it to an REO, which is, we're going to get to the REO section in just a moment. But when you have these liabilities, you can also click the eyeball. Notes from the credit report are on this page. You can delete. You can edit this if you wanted to. Okay. Now again, don't confuse these other liabilities, because these are specific for these type: alimony, child support, separate maintenance, job-related expenses, and other. Okay, let me go back to our application. Let's go to the REOs. So add REO. So this is where you can, let's say it's, I know that I marked that they're renting, so let's just go with, if they add, I tell you, I'm just going to go and do this right here. I can update it on my borrower profile. I did mention that they're renting, so I'm going to go ahead and change that to own update. Okay, so we got the REO. Okay, now if you hover over this, it says only add REOs that are not listed by the primary borrower. Okay. All right, let's go to declarations. So again, declarations, pretty self-explanatory if you're a licensed MLO. So go through these, and then of course your GMI data as well. Okay, so selecting your GMI data, very easy to do. Okay, now let's go to property details, because we actually started the borrower section. So let's go to property details. So this is, you could edit all these different things here. So now, if they're purchasing a investment property, okay, it's important that for the DTI and to use rents and things to offset the projected payment, you just mark this as investment property here, and then you could do your gross rental, your vacancy factor, and it's going to do the math for you. It's going to factor all that into your DTI properly. Okay, so okay, So that's where you would enter the property details. Now, I will say this, if you want to run DO and you don't want to trigger, again, we have a note right here. Use TBD. Do not use 123 TBD. Don't just use all caps TBD to keep the loan out of TRID. So that's what we're going to do. And again, enter the zip code. You need a zip code in order to run it through AUS. Okay? And let's mark this as primary residence. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to go to your loan details. So loan details, this is where you flesh out your actual scenario. So let's go with an FHA purchase. Now on the term, you could use a custom term if you wanted to, like use 29 months or something like that, or just pre-selected. Okay. Loan to value. Notice that it gave a little error, okay? LTV does not qualify for FHA. It's too high. So we do try to give you little indicators like that. So I hit the wrong one. It gave me a little notice, okay? And then come over here and put in your note rate. You could click Get Quote and get a rate from the pricing engine. Matter of fact, well, let me do that over here on this one because I have this one set up. Get quote, do lender paid, get pricing. Okay, now this pulls up my rates and I'm going to go with this one here. I'm going to go to my little steering wheel. I'm going to say set rate and fees and it will populate into my actual, it'll auto-populate the rate plus any discount points or lender credits in the appropriate forms, okay, on your LE page 2. Okay, and then right over here, taxes, insurance, let's flip this to annual. We have, it auto calculates the MIP. And if it was a conventional, you could actually pull for PMI to get discounted PMI. Okay, now over here, your closing costs. So you need to set that up. So again, this is marked red. It's bringing it to your attention that, hey, we need closing cost on this. So just click on that. And you do have to select a template because right now it's not going to let you edit any of these fields. So if you open that up, I can't edit anything. You do have to select a closing cost template. So we're just going to go demo. Now it will let you, number one, it'll populate all the fees for you according to the template, but then it'll also let you edit these things to your heart's content. Okay, once you have your fee worksheet set up, you do need to mark QM, non-QM, or not subject to, and select a comp type, lender paid or borrower paid. This is necessary for your company's NMLS call reports. Then you would go to your fee worksheet, and this is where you could send it to the toolbox. So if you click Send to Toolbox, it's going to populate that in the borrower toolbox. Okay, if you have this. And this is defaulted to send an email. So when you send to the toolbox, it's going to send a fresh email with a link to the toolbox to the borrower. If you don't want to notify them that you sent it to the toolbox, just toggle that over to don't send an email. Okay, so now what the next thing that I would recommend you doing is go to your document manager, going to all. Now, one of the benefits of having somebody fill out their own application, okay, is it will automatically create a checklist of items of needs that's sent to their toolbox where they can upload documents. Okay, now if you take a hand application, you do need to go over here to view edit requested docs, and this is where you would go ahead and select what do you want to ask for, okay, from everyone. So you just select the right fields, okay, and you could add custom docs as well and update the requested docs and send them the notice if you wanted to or whatever. But again, if they filled out the initial pre-app, this would be pre-checkboxed and automated. If you fill out a hand app like this, you do need to go through here and checkbox those and then update the request list for them. Okay. Next thing is we would recommend you running automated underwriting, so DO, okay, or LPA, okay, either one. And it will do a little It'll let you know if you're missing anything. Like it says, look, you got to go pull credit. So we do give those. We try to give those little reminders to you. And then, if you want to send out an approval letter, come down here. New approval letter. Okay. And you would select your loan scenario, and it's going to populate those data points. Then you can come through here and answer certain questions, any notes or comments, when it expires, and you can copy your realtors in or referral partner in, acknowledge, and then send it out, and that goes to the borrower's toolbox. Okay. That is filling out an application in a nutshell. So if you have any questions about this, feel free to email support@preapp1003.com. And one last thing while we're here, up at the very top right, this is where you can, if you need to, after you've actually have an application, let's say you've got, these two people on the application and they need to add maybe an in-law, okay? So you could click the little person with the plus, and you can either manually do it or you could send them out the link to fill out the additional borrower information. There is no way to, if they filled out two separate applications, to merge them. So what you have to do is you have to go into the loan profile if you want somebody else added and send them the link from this dashboard here, okay? You could remove borrowers very easily right there. Select who you want to remove, and you could reposition borrowers here, okay? All right, thank you so much for your time today. Again, email support@preapp1003.com if you have questions. And thank you for using, as always, Broker Plus and PreApp 1003.